Have you ever been sitting with friends? Everyone is laughing, talking, sharing stories, and somehow you just feel nothing? You smile because you know that's what the moment calls for. You respond at the right time. From the outside, everything looks completely normal. But inside, it's strangely quiet. Or maybe something difficult happens, and instead of feeling sad, angry, or overwhelmed, you just don't react.
It's almost as if your emotions have gone silent. And that's a confusing place to be. You start wondering, what's wrong with me? Maybe you've become cold. Maybe you've stopped caring. Maybe you've changed into someone you don't even recognize anymore. But what if none of that is true? What if emotional numbness isn't the absence of emotion at all?
What if it's actually your mind trying to protect you? One of the most fascinating things about the human mind is that it's always trying to keep you functioning. Not necessarily happy, just functioning. When life becomes emotionally overwhelming for a long time, your mind doesn't always respond by making you stronger or more emotional. Sometimes it does the exact opposite. Imagine walking into a room where the music is painfully loud. At first, it's unbearable. But after a while, your ears begin to adjust. The volume hasn't changed. Your brain has simply turned it down.
Emotional numbness works in a surprisingly similar way. When you've been carrying stress, disappointment, loneliness, or emotional pressure for longer than your mind can comfortably handle, it sometimes lowers the volume on your entire emotional world. Not just the painful feelings, everything. That's why people who feel emotionally numb often say things like, "I don't feel happy anymore." But they also don't feel deeply sad, or excited, or inspired.
It's as though someone reached into their mind and quietly turned every emotion down to the same level. And here's the important part. That doesn't usually happen because you're broken. It happens because your mind has been working incredibly hard for a very long time. Another reason this happens is that emotions require energy. We often think emotions just appear automatically, but they actually take a lot of mental effort. Your brain has to notice what's happening, understand it, respond to it, and recover from it. When you've been emotionally overloaded for months, or even years, that process becomes exhausting. So instead of processing every feeling at full intensity, your mind starts conserving energy. It's almost like putting your phone into low power mode. The phone still works, it just stops doing anything that isn't absolutely necessary. Sometimes your emotional system does something very similar. Now, here's something many people don't realize. For some people, emotional numbness doesn't begin because life became too difficult.
It begins because certain emotions never felt safe to express in the first place. Maybe growing up, showing sadness made you feel like a burden. Maybe anger always caused conflict. Maybe fear was seen as weakness. Without realizing it, your mind learns a simple rule. If some emotions aren't safe, maybe it's safer not to feel too much at all. The strange thing is that your mind doesn't separate emotions very well. It doesn't say, "Let's hide sadness, but keep joy." Instead, it often lowers everything together. Think about wearing noise-canceling headphones. They don't only block the annoying sounds, they also make the beautiful sounds quieter too. Protection rarely gets to choose what disappears. It simply creates distance from all of it. But here's something really interesting. People who describe themselves as emotionally numb often say they don't feel anything anymore. And yet, little moments tell a different story.
A certain song suddenly makes them stop scrolling. An old photo catches their attention. A familiar smell brings back a memory they weren't expecting. Or they stare out the window for a few seconds longer than usual, without really knowing why. Those moments are easy to overlook, but they quietly reveal something important. The emotions never actually disappeared. They've just become harder to reach. It's a bit like looking at a lake on a cold morning. From the surface, everything seems completely still.
You might even think nothing is happening underneath. But below the surface, the water is still moving. Life is still there. You just can't see it as easily. The same is often true for emotional numbness. What feels like emptiness is often hidden emotion sitting beneath layers of protection. And perhaps that's why emotional numbness can feel so lonely. Not only because you feel disconnected from other people, but because you start feeling disconnected from yourself. You remember being someone who laughed more, someone who cried during movies,
Someone who got excited about small things. Now that version of you feels distant, almost like someone you used to know. It's easy to think you've lost yourself, but maybe you haven't. Maybe your mind has simply been protecting you for so long that protection has started to feel like your personality. Think about a tree in winter. If you only looked at the branches, you'd probably assume the tree was lifeless.
No leaves, no color, no signs of growth. But underneath the ground, the roots are still alive. Nothing has disappeared. The tree is simply using its energy differently. Our minds can do something remarkably similar. Sometimes what looks like emotional emptiness is actually quiet survival. Not because you've stopped feeling,
But because your mind has been trying to carry more than anyone could see. And maybe that's the most important thing to remember. Feeling emotionally numb doesn't necessarily mean you've become cold. It doesn't mean you've lost your ability to love. It doesn't mean there's something fundamentally wrong with you. More often than not, it simply means your mind found the quietest way it knew to protect itself. The silence you feel inside isn't proof that your emotions are gone. Sometimes it's simply the sound of a mind that has been carrying too much for too long.